America has always used race and sex as power tools. Way back before we were even a country, of course, pale men raped enslaved women and children, but many, many years later, they were still abusing their power and privilege to abuse black women and girls. It was sometimes called nighttime integration. By day, segregation was enforced. It was everywhere: churches, schools, stores, water fountains, you name it. But by night, white men used the social power that came with their skin color to take sex from black women and girls. They used threats, coercion, jobs, jail, violence, and that secretive dark of night to get what they wanted. The law didn't stop them. In most cases, it protected them. Besides, who was going to file charges against a pale man for raping a black woman or girl? These women and girls were maids, cooks, nannies, students, farm workers, or just someone the pale guy happened to see around. Maybe they worked for the family and lived in the servant quarters on the property, or maybe they lived in the black part of town just a few blocks away, close enough for white men to get to them, but not close enough to be protected. It was rare for black women to report sexual assaults by pale men. To be clear, it was rare for pale women to report sexual assaults, too. Men were protected by the religious and social prudishness of the times. Women felt ashamed of sexual assault, even when they were forced against their will. If pale women reported it, it wasn't unusual to claim that a black man did it, even when that was not true. A lot of black men and boys suffered because of that. But black females were even less likely to report. Everyone knew what would happen if they did. They'd be punished for lying on a white man at best. They could lose their jobs, they could be beaten or thrown in jail, they could be killed. Their families could face consequences too: eviction, retaliation, violence, more violence. This wasn't just an individual trauma, it became a collective one and a generational one. Families carried the burden in silence. Children born from these assaults were often kept secret, denied, or forced to live with unanswered questions. Some grew up in the same towns as their white fathers or half-siblings, knowing they could never say a word. Churches sure didn't talk about it. They said sex was a sin unless you were married, and it was illegal for black people and white people to marry. So, schools didn't teach it, history books erased it, but the reality was passed down in those secret ways generational trauma is passed down, without really understanding where all this pain actually came from, because of all the secrets. Meanwhile, pale communities clung to their mask of moral superiority. Pale women may have known something was off with their husband insisting on driving the housekeeper home instead of having her ride the bus like everyone else, but they knew it was best not to ask too many questions. Black women knew it was bad news if the boss had them work late. This is American history. Our collective history. It's not just black history, although it certainly is black history, but it's white history too. It's the history of our country. The exploitation, the silence, the bloodlines, the fear, not as a side note, but as part of the core curriculum of our shared history. Because we don't get to build a better country if we can't even face the one we already built. One share says you care about true American history and you want the whole thing to be told. Get curious.